Gather around. So, I'll tell you a little bit about Kettle Cuisine. We are a soup manufacturer based out of Boston, actually Lynn. And we have another sister facility in Everett, Washington. So between the two coasts, we have about 500,000 square feet of kitchen. And I mean kitchen. We really make soup from scratch. So every day we have a huge, it looks like a giant T-ball that we fill with chicken frames, right? We make real chicken stock every day of the week. Matter of fact, this time of the year, we start freezing it for next soup season because that's how much we go between making it fresh every day, and we need to supplement that real chicken stock every day. So we do clean label soups, and one of the companies we also own is Boneworks out of Green Bay. So I spent 20 years with Boneworks, and 4 years ago, Kettle was on an acquisition tour, and we got bought out. So here I am. Haven't been in Albany in 30 years. I used to work up in Saratoga Springs for a printing company out of Wisconsin. So all of August, I spent my entire month at the Brackett House on Broadway. It's arguably the greatest private bed and breakfast there was, which was even haunted. It was kind of cool. So Boneworks, what are we known for? We're known for roasting bones. That's why we're called Boneworks. We run a USDA HACCP SQF3 facility, 6 days a week, 24 hours a day. We have 36 250-gallon steam jacket kettles. So we buy bones, fresh bones. We roast them in the oven, put them in the kettle. California celery, carrot, onion, parsley stems are fresh, bay leaves are fresh, peppercorns. We're making chicken stock. This isn't rocket science. This is basic fundamental cooking. But where it goes to the next level is we take the stock and we reduce it and make authentic either gloss or demi-glace. Kind of an old world thing that not many people do. If you were to look at the price of veal bones today, it's probably the price of ground beef. $4 to $5 a pound if you could even source them. We go through 200,000 pounds of bones every week. Not once in a while, every week. But then we also do duck, we do chicken, we do lamb, everything domestic that we can get our hands on. And then we freeze it. So you as an operator buy the product. Today I'm going to show you our veal demi-glace. It's got a burgundy wine reduction. It's gluten and dairy free. It comes in a 16-pound bucket. Ginsberg stocks it. So get those orders placed. But I'm going to show you today like 2 dishes. We also do sous vide cooking. So I'm going to show you a short rib, a beef short rib that we do as well. But I want to show you this meatloaf. Like TV, you only give me so much time. And you know, you got to have stuff prepared ahead of time. So I want to show you this meatloaf that I made. And they are hot. I love using equipment that you buy and you only use it for one thing. And I'm like, man, that's a perfect vessel to make an individual meatloaf in. I'm so tired of every meatloaf being square, right? Let's make it round. Ooh. So if you noticed, I took, and I'm from Wisconsin, we always use a third beef, third ground pork, third ground beef. Whole Foods, when I said veal, the guy went like this. I said, have you ever eaten a piece of veal? He said, no, I've never even seen a piece of veal. I said, well, you're not my friend, but I'm buying meat from you. So this is equal parts of ground beef and pork. And I'm going to show you what I do a little different than most people. You know, when you make meatloaf, everybody has their own recipe. Green peppers, onions, garlic, all kinds of stuff. I'm pretty simple when it comes to meatloaf, but one rule that I have is you got to saute that vegetable, whatever you're putting in there. If it's green pepper, you can't just throw it in there raw. You'll have heartburn. 2 hours later, you're like, ah, great meatloaf, but I'm still, you know what I mean? So I'm gonna show you, I've got some baby portobellos, and this is gonna tie into the sauce. I already made this, again. It's called a duxelle. So this is portobellos, shiitake, shallots, a little bit of butter, and salt and pepper. And I cooked it down, and then I added that to the meatloaf mixture with breadcrumbs, salt, pepper, some eggs, right? And some Italian flat leaf parsley. Sometimes, you know, it depends on my mood. I throw a little ketchup and mustard in there. I didn't have it. didn't need it. So we're gonna chop this up. And because we're gonna use this as a sauce, we're not gonna chop the mushrooms so fine. Remember, always keep those fingers tucked in, right? They don't grow back. So we have some shiitakes here. These were the smallest, arguably the smallest shiitakes I've ever seen. You always gotta take the stem off of shiitakes. They're very woody. Anybody here go wild mushroom hunting? I mean, you guys have a lot of woods around here. What do you hunt for? What kind of mushrooms? So I could show you on my phone when I get off the stage. I just picked like 7 pounds of morels 2 weeks ago on a trout farm that my buddy owns. Yeah, it is. It's morel, asparagus season, ramps. You know, chefs, we pay dearly for these ingredients. You get out of the kitchen once in a while and throw on your flannel shirt. What do you gotta find time for it, chef. I'm a corporate chef. I cover 50 states. I'm like a wrestler. I'm from parts unknown. I live in Milwaukee, so it's easy for me to get around the country, right? I'm right in the center of the country. And this sauce we're gonna make, we're cooking with beer. I wasn't lying. You don't have to just cook with wine or cognac or brandy like we do in Wisconsin. So here's a nice hot pan, right? Hot pan, little olive oil, your choice. Could be canola oil, could be rice bran oil. I don't really care, just so it's not motor oil. All right, I asked this young apprentice before, what does the term saute mean? He tried to tell me, I said, no, it doesn't mean that. All it means is to jump. That's what the pan is doing, right? The food's jumping around in there. The French. I used to make a soup called potage garbageur. It was a garbage man soup. Romaine lettuce hearts. It was all stuff that we would come back from a catering gig every weekend and I'd have all these romaine hearts and potatoes and all these things that we never, you know, you bought them, you gotta pay, they're paid for, you better do something with them. So I got into one of my French cookbooks and I said, oh, the garbage man soup. You puree everything up, add a little heavy cream, covers all your sins, chicken stock, and people thought you know, wow, how'd you make that soup? I said, I don't know, just, it's whatever we got left over every week. So a little shallot in there, and less is more, right? If I need more oil, I can add it. Once it's in there, it's kind of hard to get out. So I'm gonna add a little more oil. And when you cook with beer, there's some rules. You gotta save half of it for yourself to drink. That's the first rule. Second rule is sometimes you gotta balance it depending on what beer. If you're using like Miller, or you can tell I'm from Wisconsin, Pabst, Schlitz, all the good stuff. That's college beer, right? That's when you first learn how to drink. You don't have to add in a sweetener, but when you get into these high hoppy beers, like an IPA, you might have to balance that hoppiness because it gets you right here. So you might have to add a little bit of honey. I'm using out of Brooklyn, 6 Points. This guy went to school in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and he started his own brewery. And we can get it in, it's great beer if you've never had it. This is his Sweet Action, it's called, all right? So you're gonna add about 3 ounces of beer. We're gonna reduce that by volume by half. And we have this meatloaf done. I'm gonna do a little vegetable too, because I want to show you the whole plate, right? What I envision when you sell this thing. And meatloaf, right? I don't know, it's comfort food, right? You can make it with turkey. It doesn't need it could be chicken. Heck, you could do a seafood meatloaf. I wouldn't eat it. No, I'm just joking. And then I've got demi-glace. Here it is. So again, this product comes frozen. It's thawed out now. And then here I blanched some baby carrots. And we were just talking about if you're in competition or just cooking, everything's in 3s or 5s. No even numbers, odd numbers when you plate stuff. So these were really nice carrots I found. I blanched them in salted water, shocked them. Now we're gonna saute them to warm them up. A little oil. And a little bit of, you can tell I have no budget. I'm using pelugra. If you've never had pelugra, it's worth the money. It's arguably some of the greatest butter in the country. All right, that wine or that beer is reduced in half. Now we're gonna add some demi, 2-3 ounces. Oh, we're gonna add it all. So just like, anything else, I already made a big batch of this. It's in a huge Boneworks thermos. So I already have my steak and ale sauce. All right, we're gonna let that reduce. And then, just because we can, I was gonna do green beans. Every green bean that I saw in the last 2 days looked not very good. So, right, you gotta play with what's in season. These carrots look good. I bought some hazelnuts, toasted them, skinned them. So throw a few hazelnuts. I didn't do this on the first one. And that's the thing about being, like some chefs, right, they can't admit, I've never made a mistake in my life. I've made a lot of mistakes. Where do you start? But I don't know any other profession you can immerse yourself and put your own personal love. That's what we do. Why would anybody work the crazy hours that we do and do what we do? Why? Because if you love hospitality and you like people, then you're honest about it. It's the greatest profession. I don't know anything else. I mean, on my days off, I went to Memphis in May. I compete in competitive barbecue. My wife's like, "You give up a week for that?" I'm like, I'd give up 2 weeks for that. It's passion. I don't care what you do. You gotta have passion. So let's start plating this. Can you smell those hazelnuts? Ooh, Lordy. And then I'm gonna swipe one of these meatloafs. I mean, look at that. You'll never, oh, and then by the way, I made some roasted garlic Yukon Gold mashed potatoes. And just a little, again, this is not being, whether you know it or not, this has no bearing on it. I'm always about, you gotta give fundamental techniques. So when you roast garlic, right, that's the garlic. A lot of people, I see them toasting it on the stove in oil. I'm like, that's not roasted garlic. You gotta cut the face of the garlic, the root end off, put that in tin foil, a little olive oil, maybe some chopped rosemary, S&P, close it up into a little bundle, throw it in your oven, 375 till it is tender and you can push it out of that skin. That's roasted garlic, and you can taste the difference. There's a huge difference. And then that sauce is right where I want it. And as the French say, montez beurre, right? Mount it with butter. So you turn off your burner, world's smallest whisk. When you travel, everything is miniature. But see, when you add butter, it doesn't turn the sauce into a cream sauce. When you add cream, it's cream sauce. When you add butter, it gives you the sheen. That's what you're looking for. And that butter, that little bit of fat, rounds out the flavor, because just demi on its own is wonderful with beer and all that, but that little bit of fat to take it over the edge, that's where people go, ah. All right. Not too much sauce. You could always send another ramekin out to the customer. I hate plates that are just 5 ounces of sauce. This isn't, it's not soup. And then mashed potatoes, right? So these, and I leave the skins on. I buy them really nice, smaller B-size yellow creamers. And then I have a little chopped parsley here. And a little fresh parsley garnish. And also fried shallots. Al Fletcher, who is a force of nature that works for Kettle Cuisine. If you've never met Al, he's over in our booth. You got to go meet Al. He's an amazing guy. He said, "Chef, I fried shallots. Where did you get those?" I go, "Asian market." He goes, "I've never seen them." I go, "Try them." He goes, "Those are better than mine." I go, "Ancient Chinese secret." So a little fried shallot, right? Right on, that's it. I mean, anybody can do it, right? All right, next one we're gonna do is that short rib. Could you go, do you know where Al is? Go get 2 short ribs from him. All right. I'm the last one today, so I'm gonna steal as much time as I can. Now, I can get this done in 7-8 minutes. So, we have a short rib. We buy all of our meat, Midwest sourced. We're out of Green Bay. We bring them in, our meat cutter's 15 minutes from my door in Green Bay. Because I ain't cutting meat. I don't do it for a living. As good as I think I am with a knife for 2 hours a day, I'm not a journeyman or woman meat cutter. So we bring in the meat, they wet age it, vacuum sealed 21, no more than 28 days for us. They cut it to our spec. They come over in totes. Cherry ground black pepper, kosher salt on every cut. And we do 200,000 a week. Then we line them up like little soldiers on sheet pans, and we roast them in the same ovens I roast my bones in. Then I take and I vacuum seal it in the demi-glace, and now I push it in. We have 3 25-foot long steam ovens. I push it into a meat sauna, and they sit in there. They don't do this, but that's what I imagine they're doing. It's like 180 to 190 degrees, so you're pasteurizing the meat. Now, we sell it to you. It's the first time the meat's ever been frozen. It comes off the Ginsberg truck. You open it up. 21-day shelf life refrigerated in your cooler. You drop it in a pot of boiling water for 13 to 15 minutes, cut it open, and you're gonna get to taste it. It's incredible. So, to show you how we're gonna serve this, Chipolini. If you've never had a Chipolini onion, man, it'll change your life. It won't save your marriage, but it'll change your life. So I did these in Chianti wine. I first took salted boiling water, threw in the Cipolinis for 3 minutes, drained them, put them in Chianti with a little bit of demi-glace, and just slowly cooked them with some fresh thyme, salt and pepper. Very simple. All right. So those Cipolini we've got. And then I also, I'll tell you a little story. I told the first group this. I travel all over, so I love grits. I might be from the north, but I love grits. And when you're in Mississippi, they're grits. But by the time you get up to Indiana, that's cornmeal mush. They don't call them grits anymore. And when you get up like where we are, or Wisconsin, it's polenta, and you can charge like twice the price. So just remember that, you know? So what I do, a little different than anybody else, I make my polenta. Right now, in the middle of winter, I'm not gonna do it. I can use frozen corn, but it doesn't have the same appeal. I took like a bunch of corn, shucked it. Here's a little trivia for you. Do you know that every tassel that's in here represents 1 kernel of corn? There's no more, no less. Did you know that? I have way too much food knowledge upstairs. So you take your knife, right? When you make your milk, butter, cornmeal, salt, pepper, I put it in a rice cooker. I'm on the road, I don't have all the equipment. You know, you're cooking on a showroom floor. You got to think about this ahead of time. So I already have polenta made. We're going to take our short ribs. We're going to add the short ribs to the Chipolini onions. And let that get happy real quick. Then in another pan, I wanted fresh peas. They're tough to find. I mean, let's just be honest, I was happy to get sugar snacks. I'm gonna wipe this out real quick. All right. A little oil. Some sugar snaps. If you guys want, why don't you do some meatloafs? Yep. I'm gonna have them start assembling some meatloaf so you guys can try it. Yeah, I have that, there it is, yep. I also did, just because I had nothing else to do, these didn't make it on the oven roasted tomatoes, right? Just salt, pepper, a little olive oil, and you just slow roast them at like 275 and let that flavor condense. It's like a stewed tomato, but fresh. Wow. And then a little bit of, tiny bit of butter on those peas. And I have some fresh thyme for that Chipolini as well. All right, so let's assemble this dish. This polenta is like twice as good as the first one. I mean, it's all good, right? But there's varying degrees. This one's perfect. Wow. This looks good enough to eat, let me tell you. I don't believe in doggy bags. I mean, I believe, you know, you don't want to cheat people, you want to give a nice portion, but I want you to eat my appetizer or have a soup. I want you to have a salad. I want you to have an entree, little dessert. I'll walk you out to your car, put you in a wheelchair, we'll get you out there. And then I know I do somewhere, hold on, a little bit of fresh thyme to kind of tie off that dish. And it's done. The beauty of that short rib that we do, because it's just literally salt and pepper and demi, I had an idea, I just ran out of time, but I have this container, it looks like a Chinese carryout box, but it's plastic and it's opened up. And I was gonna put a Asian noodle salad with noodles and vegetables and like a teriyaki, and then put some of my short rib in there, and then some toasted sesame on top. Very simple. Again, you can take the product and move it to any nationality you want. We're just putting salt, pepper, demi, so it's like a blank canvas. All right, look at that. You know, that's $28. I just did that in like a moment. We're gonna get some samples out to you. I really wanna thank Ginsberg for inviting me to do this. We had met out in Palm Springs, and they called and said, would you do this? And I said, yeah, I do a lot of things for the company, but it was more than a pleasure to do this. And I hope you got some ideas and a little inspiration. Thank you. And if you need any more information, you can go see Al over at our booth. He'll fill you with all kinds of info.